I'll call the February 8th, 2023 Township Board meeting to order.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, we already approved the minutes, so. The next item is treasurer appointment and deputy treasurer appointments, oath of office.
When did we approve the minutes?
Before the meeting.
We have to do it on the, don't we have to do it on the record or no?
Oh,
We'll just do it quick.
yeah.
We'll do it after.
We don't have
For the town of Great Cloud Island
one. She
Township,
said it.
I, Keisha Jones, do solemnly swear.
Repeat all that?
You want all of it?
You want me to repeat all that? I said?
Yes, you want,
Okay.
you need to repeat.
Perfect. For the Great Platte Island Township, I, Keisha Jones, solemnly swear
That I will support the Constitution of the United States and
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
the state of Minnesota,
and the state of Minnesota,
and faithfully for and on behalf of the citizens of Great Cloud,
and faithfully for and on behalf of the citizens of Great Cloud,
discharge the duties of the office of treasurer
discharge the duties of the office of treasurer
of the town of Great Cloud Island
in the town of Great Platte Island,
in the county of Washington
in the county of
and
Washington,
the state of Minnesota,
and the state of Minnesota,
to the best of my judgment and ability,
to the best of my judgment and ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
I'll get- Can you just say that all
Did you
over?
remember all that?
You got that, right? For the town of Great Cloud Island, I, Scott Blake, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
That I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the state of Minnesota,
and the state of Minnesota,
and faithfully
faithfully,
and on behalf of the citizens of Great Cloud Island,
and on behalf of the citizens of Great Cloud Island,
discharge the duties of the office of deputy treasurer
discharge the duties of deputy treasurer
of the town of Great Cloud Island
of the town of Great Cloud Island,
in the county of Washington
and the county of Washington,
and the state of Minnesota,
and the state of Minnesota,
to the best of my judgment
to the best of my judgment.
and ability, so help me God.
You got it.
Thank you. We will go back to the approval of the minutes. So approval of minutes from January 11th.
I'll make a motion to approve the meetings from January 11th.
I'll
continuing
second
on
that.
18.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Treasurer's report.
All right, a couple things. So January filed the W-2s and W-3s, so you should all have your W-2s. I also filed the, even though we don't have any debt, we have to file the disclosure for indebtedness with the county. So that's done, and the exclusion report's been filed with PIRA, so that's all done. I'll run through the January financial statement. We had beginning balance checking of $107,122, expenses of $6,534, revenue of $21,997 for an ending balance of $122,586. Our investments finally went up significantly for total assets of $571,882. Expenses were down because of the no police payment this year. So that was a big reason. And then last year's snowplow was higher. So that's why we're 30,000 lower, 29,000 lower. Revenue was down almost 11,000. So the tax levy and the gravel tax payment switched months. That's what's happening here. So nothing to be concerned about, but the gravel tax came in January this year, and the levy come in February, and last year those were flipped around. So on the bottom, we don't really need to look too closely at this yet, but yeah, go ahead.
Is that gravel tax like a H2, or is that a monthly, or?
That's I think it's first half. That's half, yeah. You're welcome. So I updated the budget on the bottom to reflect the 2023 budget. And the other thing I did in the surplus was showing a little bit higher than this, but I wanted to make sure we had enough in checking. So surplus, I rebalanced those. We had 50,000 in unallocated. I think road and bridge was negative. So I just rebalanced those going forward to kind of clean it up. The cemetery is the same as it has been. That's about it. I'll be transitioning this over to Keisha. We're going to be meeting to file the FY22 financial statements with the state and county, and then we'll start to transition the monthly meeting stuff over to her. Any questions?
No, thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve. I'll make a motion to approve the treasurer's report.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Let's pay the bills.
I'll make a motion to pay bills 20 through 40 for $16,928.39.
I second that.
Any questions? I have none.
No.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Planning Commission report.
Good afternoon, everyone. A brief report for you today, because we did meet a couple of days ago. It was a very productive meeting. The beef of the meeting was to really review the permit application recommendation, which you've got. I can see the printouts right in front of you, and I know the mining company has had the same documentation. We forwarded that. Then we had a robust discussion. Supervisor Polta was in the meeting and can correct me if I'm reflecting anything incorrectly, but we went through the recommendations, which you know were submitted to us by a consultant company, SHC. We didn't adopt them wholly, so we made some modifications to it, had a pretty good dialogue through that process. I'm not going to go through point by point. I think later on the agenda you've got this recommendation for you to take action on, just to make sure, but for the public to qualify that from a planning commission perspective, what we do is issue a recommendation and you can tweak it as you see fit. Final decisions that you make, obviously in coordination with the clerk, would have to get then forwarded to the mine and to the county for their awareness and consideration, because the permit process is really the lever that we've got as a community in order to actually impose what is characterized as controls of the permit for next year for 23. Once again, thank you for the support you gave us in the consultant element of it, which highlighted a bunch of things that we didn't know and that they're in front of you right now. Let me know if there's any questions on that. If not, I know the agenda item is going to come up. You're probably going to go through them and you have probably reviewed them ahead of time. Once again, the mining company has the same document that you do in PDF format, so they are in the know and they were part of the discussion itself. The other item that we just mentioned real quick, and I also see on the agenda for later on today, so I'm going to bend your ear with it, is the ordinance creation around the Mississippi River
Yep, we have.
critical area. I know we have TKDA And the Ruben's gonna give us an update on that, so I'm not gonna dwell on it too much. But just to know from a plan commission perspective, we're in the pipeline of creating that ordinance. There's a hearing that's gonna have to get set and so on, we'll get an update on that. Discussed it very, very briefly. And we adjourned. Those were the two things that occupied our time this past Monday. Let me know if there's any questions.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Yep. The next planning commission meeting is Monday, March 6th at 6:30 PM. The next town board meeting is Wednesday, March 8th at 7 PM. The annual meeting is Tuesday, March 14th at 7. The local board of appeal and equalization meeting is Thursday, April 13th at 6 PM. Any other committees reporting?
Well, I'm on that South Washington County, South Washington Cable, I can't remember what the acronym is. Took Dan's place, really don't know what's going on in there, kind of a token, just got there. The only thing I do know is their attorney told them the amount of income coming in from cable TV is dropping substantially every year with people cutting the cord. So he said, looking ahead, they might have to look at where they're gonna get income from. So that's about all I know about the place right now.
Well, keep us posted on that.
One other thing I'd like to bring up in that annual meeting, now keep in mind the residents run that meeting, we don't run it, but what's historically happened in this township is that a budget would be voted on at that annual meeting. 2 years ago, we didn't. We voted on the budget in September, I think, or October, and that's what the board will propose to do again, is wait until fall to do that, right before we have to have the figures into the county. And reading from Minnesota Association of Townships, several townships do that. It gets you, because you're setting the budget for 2024 is what you're doing. So the closer you get to 24, the closer you can be to where you should be for your budget. Gives you an extra 6 months or so. Just so you're aware of that, the board, the treasurers, they have no proposed budget for that meeting. So what'll probably happen is open the meeting, have any discussion about what's happening in the township, talk about whatever people want to talk about, and kick the budget down the road till fall. Again, that's the public's option, not us guys, because the public runs that meeting.
Aren't you wanting to show the draft that we went through at the Board of Audit? We did that 2 years ago.
We could do that if we want to. Why don't we just have the final number, your taxes? Well, we don't even have a number really.
We could show that rough draft. I
draft
mean, a lot
number.
of it's waiting on road
Yeah.
and bridge to get or roads
We can
to get
show a real
prices.
rough draft, but I mean, it's very rough. So,
Before unfinished business, I have one question, unrelated to that. I knew there was something on the bills that I wanted to bring up. So the last item, 40, if you remember, there was about a 18-month period where the county was significantly double counting. That one looks a little, I don't know how many snowfalls that was for, but that one looks higher than normal. So I don't know if you want to check with Cheryl or if you want to call who we spoke to last time, just to confirm, because there's also road salt on line 27 also. So that looks a little, that looks high.
The first one was salt, strictly salt, and then the second one, about the 40 was snow and ice control on Highway 75.
Okay. It might be right. That just looks about double.
I know one thing, he used a lot of salt this year.
Yeah, I'm wondering
I
if-
mean, he
Yeah.
did oversalt, but we ain't gonna sit and pick on him for that,
Yeah.
but there was a lot of salting done, because there was a lot of this big snowfalls, you know. Whether
Well,
they're
they're
this
paid
big-
twice, that's all I'm looking for.
Okay.
I would like him to switch to a sand salt mix.
I just remember Adams talking once, if you do that, you have to pick it up, and he mentioned something once, it's a hazardous waste. I don't know. And they don't like dealing with sand because it freezes in the truck.
Oh,
You know, I mean,
yeah, I
they have
suppose.
problems with their
Yeah.
equipment. Why don't you ask them about that? I mean, I have no problem with it. It's just, you don't see anybody else using it because I think it's really a tough issue to deal with.
Yeah, all right, I'll give Andy a call. Where are we?
Unfinished business.
Mississippi River Corridor Critical Area, MRCCA Ordinance, Evan Monson.
Good evening, Town Board. Just going to give you a brief overview of this project. I've been working with the Planning Commission the last few months recently on this project, but essentially what is the MRCCA? It's the Mississippi River Critical Corridor Area. Essentially these are rules meant to protect the river, prevent skyscrapers and all sorts of development from going up along the river here. The township and any other city or county that is within this corridor is required to adopt an ordinance that is consistent with the rules that were adopted by the DNR back in 2017. So what we've been doing is working with your planning commission on drafting an ordinance that would satisfy these state requirements. You do have a final draft before you tonight. This was reviewed recently by the DNR. They provided feedback on January 10th, stating that our draft is consistent with their rules, that they are ready to see us adopted whenever you guys want to set that hearing. So the next steps for you, next month, Planning Commission, we can review the draft, we can present any information, go over any details that the public or the commissioners wish to address, and then we would have the town board have the option to formally adopt, or if you want to deny it, you could do that as well on your March 8th meeting. We could either do the hearing at the commission meeting or at the town board. Either
Well,
one.
I would, oh, the hearing. Yes, we need a hearing on it.
So we'll do both meetings for sure, but one would be a hearing and one would just be a regular reading. So if you guys have a preference, I'm open to whatever. So however you guys want to operate, that's kind of the
I would-
discussion here tonight.
I would like it to be the planning commission.
The hearing.
Yeah, is that okay?
Yeah, in my experience, the benefit of having a public hearing prior to you taking action is that you can consider the action.
Yeah,
A lot of the hearing is to hear input. It may be all hunky-dory, there may be some community members or other parties that raise something that you go, whoa.
yeah,
And you don't wanna go hearing action.
right.
Because you don't have time to deliberate, so I would really recommend that you have at least a couple days, so the planning commission would be a good forum, or if not, at a different time, it doesn't need to be under our auspices. But that you give yourself time for what comes up in public hearing
Yeah.
that you wanna consider for the adoption or deliberation. Usually, any public hearing is only about hearing, it's not about action orientation, and you want that input before you take action.
Yeah.
Laura makes a great point. That would give you a little bit of feedback initially before you have your chance.
Yeah, so we'll do it, well, the public meeting,
We'll set the hearing for the planning, to coincide with the planning commission time. We'll
Yep.
just make sure that's either right before or right after the meeting, probably before, so we don't stay here all night.
yeah,
Just to check it, Laura, that's March 6th, correct?
Well,
So 6:30, March 6th.
6:30, March 6th would be it. Is that cool?
Do they have to be separate? It can't coincide, I mean,
It can.
so
You can make
first,
it-
the planning commission would be at 6:30,
And there's an agenda item in the planning commission in the open forum, which is public hearings. So we will just make a hearing.
So you
right
just
in.
put it in your agenda?
Yeah, it's a default agenda item. We
Yep.
never have any, but now we do.
So if there's any other additional questions, I can certainly go through those tonight, but I anticipate you'll want to take the next few weeks to review this draft. Obviously, if you do have any other
Yep.
questions after tonight, certainly reach out.
I thought the draft was well put together.
Is this the same as the draft you sent us a couple months ago?
There's a few minor changes, but not too many, so it's
Okay.
largely just some typos and some other edits addressed, so.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's, so we would have to, at the planning commission meeting, we'd have to, vote on the ordinance.
Well, they'll make a recommendation,
Recommendation.
Oh, yeah,
then you guys will vote.
oh, then we'll vote on them.
One Wednesday.
Today's happening.
On March 8th, we would have a vote on it. It would just be a hearing and discussion on March 6th and then vote on it on March 8th.
Thank you,
No problem.
appreciate it.
See you next month.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, the noise ordinance? The noise ordinance?
We did not have any discussion or an agenda item at the planning commission on the noise ordinance. The noise ordinance, the last time we talked about it, had been presented to you directly as a possibility. We're still silent on it, from a planning commission perspective. All we're recommending is the adherence to the MRCCA rules, and since it's been presented to you, you can decide, hey, do you want us to take a look at it, or do you want to take action yourself? The last time that I talked to Supervisor Polta, decided to basically bench it because we didn't know if this was going to be relevant or not, given other township business.
Can we put this on the, public hearing?
He probably doesn't know about that.
For,
Yeah,
This
it's
is
an
new.
ordinance.
This is new. Yeah, this is a rough draft.
No, it's not that, it's just that the type of ordinance this is, it doesn't require a public hearing. The only ones that require public hearings, if you're gonna have land use variance, or you gotta give notice to landowners, that kind of thing. This is like passing a speed limit. You don't have a public hearing on those, because some people will like the speed limit, others won't. The same thing here, you get, some people would like it, some people wouldn't. This is a board function, the board has to decide if they're gonna
And,
pass this ordinance.
and are you ready to,
This isn't from the planning commission.
This is not from the planning
Oh.
commission. This is in front of you from a
That's
direct,
Rorty.
oh,
non-township resident that thinks that we should adopt it. I don't know the accuracy of what you just heard about whether or not an ordinance can be adopted without a hearing. I'm not an attorney, so I would strongly suggest you consult with your attorney before you would decide to adopt an ordinance without a hearing.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
never seen where we can adopt an ordinance without having a hearing.
I talked to the Minnesota Association of Townships meeting today, and they said the same thing, on this type of ordinance, you don't get a public hearing.
Yeah, so I'm sorry about the confusion, Mr. Chair. We just simply have not had a discussion on that because we have not been presented with that information. This has come
Okay.
directly to you from
Well,
a private citizen.
yeah, I know.
So one of the things I'd say is that, for us to look at was, I did reach out and talk with the sheriff just on that, like if we were to adopt the thing that we did. The other communities, they don't have the reader to be able to really do that very well. So that's kinda, listening to things, I think we may wanna consider something a little different that we send over to Tim that just keeps, the same feeling that we have.
I agree, I absolutely agree.
And I don't know if we wanna throw something together and send it to the sheriff and get a
Well, let's,
yay or nay, and then,
let's run it back to the planning commission again. Let them look at it, get our
Okay.
input. If you guys wanna be there, that's
This one?
fine. This one along with the other stuff we got. We got a whole pile of stuff on this.
Yeah, I know.
We got enough stuff there to cut down a redwood tree.
Mr. Chair, I can tell you that proposed ordinance is a direct lift out of Woodbury's ordinance. They have it on the books, and it's just a straight copy of their stuff. And so, the sheriff is
Well,
fine with it, so it's
like
whether you want to look
I
at it,
said,
it's fine.
We've got something homegrown.
Is that the one that says if you turn your hearing aid all the way up and you go 100 feet away and you hear it, it's a violation?
That's anything you want to hear.
Well, you get my point.
That's That's what Woodbury's got, that's what Cottage Grove has got.
We're not Woodbury,
No,
far from
or
Woodbury.
Cottage.
Well, that's not the point. Gordy knows what I'm talking about. The one ordinance said if you can what? Plainly, audibly hear, it's a violation. Is that,
If it's day or night, it's 50 or 100 feet, and that's what.
That's the one that's there.
Bright line ordinance. If you start throwing in reasonable, it becomes just like the rest of our ordinances, they're unenforceable. That's what the
Yeah.
cops told us for the last 2 years, and the sheriff told us the same thing. I met with them
Yeah.
in the office, and they said our existing ordinance, because they say reasonable, they can't enforce it.
well, we can talk about again at the planning commission, but what the cop told you and what he told me were,
Well, he
They
also
don't-
talked to Dan, too. Dan heard it from the sheriff himself.
basically, he told me some of the stuff we got written down, he said, what you got there, it says they can disperse the party, they can charge the landowner with the noise, you know, and personally, myself, we're gonna kick this down to the planning commission, but I would sooner let the police go out there and make a decision, is it bad, isn't it bad, not,
Well, we better
but-
get the sheriff to that planning commission meeting so he can tell you why it's not enforceable,
Yeah.
what is and what isn't. You can hear it right from him.
I just know when we were younger and making too much noise and the police came out, we quieted down real quicker, they came back and you were,
That doesn't work anymore.
and you behaved.
That doesn't, it's not happening anymore.
Well, maybe it throws Ted in jail for a night, we'll be okay.
Better invite the sheriff to the meeting so you can do this right the first time.
I think I wouldn't mind just having maybe something on the agenda for planning commission for just, all I want is just to make sure that the sheriff, you know, we've had other issues, not Ted's property or whatever, but people complaining that noise is going on and nothing's being done about it or whatever. So I just want residents to, something that along the lines of what we got, and that the police say, yeah, we could go out and it's reasonable or it's not, and be able to, you know, not have their hands tied.
And we can certainly do that. So.
Yeah, that ain't a bad idea, that ain't bad, let's,
We can put it in the agenda, just, again, for the record, we made a recommendation.
Yep.
Put it in writing, we gave it to you, you said that's what we wanna do, and we're done. And then since then, there's been one non-township resident's issue with it, and has continued to say, we want more. And we've corroborated that with the clerk, and have asked, are there any complaints? And there are none. And we've received 2 complaints last year, all year. So the point is, if we need to take a look at it again and restrict it and add restrictions to it at your direction, we will. But so far, from a planning commission and board perspective, we're kind of settled to say this is what we're gonna do. If you think that we need to take a look at it, great. I would just encourage you to look at it from a, is there water under the bridge or not? Is there enough of a issue to warrant new ordinances? That's all, because we've got many ordinances that are not being followed.
And that's like, the only thing that I have issue with that whole thing is it clearly states it's driven off decibel readings. So if that's what, you know, nobody else complains about that, nobody else wants that, I agree, but if a sheriff goes out and he straight up tells me, we don't have decibel readers, we don't operate that way, so if there is an issue and we have constant, because we've had other issues, not just this, we have had issues in the past with noise, and then we get those same residents that say, why is nothing ever done about it? I just want to make sure that, you know, if a sheriff's telling us he don't have a decibel reader, so how's he gonna write a ticket and it won't hold up in court? Then I just, you know, just so we have that understanding that they can't write a ticket basically, but
And we will certainly
That's-
take it on.
yeah.
All I'm saying is that noise is very subjective.
Yep.
And there may be a lot of people that think that what I do with my lawnmower is noise, and
right,
next thing I get a ticket for running a lawnmower at 2 p.m. because somebody 50 feet away can hear it.
no, we don't
That's a
want,
day.
yeah, nope.
So, let's make sure that we build in some logic into it. So, but we'll take a look at it, we'll put it on the agenda.
Next item is the Holcim mining permit with Washington County. Do we have,
I don't think we've got much of anything, just some paperwork that says as they work through it, they will be in contact with us. And they said
Yeah,
they won't do anything unless they, contact us first, they won't pass anything. And I would encourage other two board members to read the county's mining permit. It's quite extensive. It's kind of good in a way. And right now, we were kind of fed the wrong information. We thought their original RFP they put out for a planner, the way I read it was they did it to redo their mining permit, and what they told us they did is, what we've been told since then is they hired a planner to review the EAW that Holcim submitted to them. It's not the way it showed in the RFP, but that's what they said, that's what they did, so. That's it on that.
All right, the next item on the, okay, yes.
Is there any concern, since it's been such a problem with the maps, that the map on the county permit is a little different than the map on the township permit? Up by me in the northern part of the pit, there's a portion that they say they might mine in like 2025. And we questioned them about it at a planning commission meeting, or a board meeting, and they said that they would take that off the map, which they did on the township permit, but it stayed on the county permit. And I guess my question is there any reason that those maps just can't match? And should we be concerned at all that they don't?
Yep.
The county permit is a 5-year permit. The administrative permit is a 1-year permit. They will most likely be not in agreement. That's the reason.
We also haven't had any discussion really on the 5-year. We'll be able to put our input in on that and give it back to the county when we receive that.
Next item on the agenda is the Holcim mining permit for Larson Quarry. And planning commission had it all put together.
Well, I can speak on that. I was at the planning commission and we talked about several things, operating hours and stuff that were shown in the administrative permit. None of that has to be in there. That's all in the zoning ordinance anyway. And to put hours in there, them hours didn't necessarily match operating hours that the county has got in their permit. So here, come get this, Tom. You're gonna wanna see this anyway. Now, you're getting this just now because it was only printed half an hour ago. In fact, these guys just got it.
This is different than the one I got in the email earlier today.
Yeah, yep,
It's got some red highlighted
Yeah.
stuff.
okay. So it's just a lot easier to reference our zoning ordinance, and then our zoning ordinance references the county ordinance. So we took them operating hours out of the permit. And then it came to my attention today that we have nothing in our zoning ordinance and the county has nothing in their zoning ordinance as to how big their blasts can be, how big the amplitude can be, how often they can blast, nothing. It's got nothing about recording them in there, nothing. Nothing that I can find anyway, let's put it that way. If there's something in there, I didn't find it, I looked quite hard. So, I don't know if we want to read this whole thing, or you guys just want to read the changes that I made, or what you want to do. Gets quite lengthy to,
The changes.
I'll do the changes, because that's the part they're going to be most objectionate to. Here's what I got. Section 7, other administrative and miscellaneous conditions. Holcim shall at their expense conduct blasting, seismograph testings, and recording during all blasting. Testing shall be done by a third-party independent testing company, not Holcim Incorporated. The reports from all seismograph testing locations shall be forwarded by the third-party testing company to the Gray Cloud Township clerk within 14 calendar days of any blast. Next, B, any complaints from township residents received by Holcim related to the Larson mining operation shall be forwarded to the Gray Cloud Island town clerk within 14 calendar days of the complaint. The next one we got was just a date. Applicant is responsible for the renewal of the permit. Applicant should reply for a new permit no later than November 1st, 23. That was their change. It was only 1 day different. And then this, H, what happened, like I say, there was nothing in them permits, or ordinances, excuse me, that limited the blast size. Nothing. I mean, they could have shook your house right down and you'd end up in court and you'd have no ordinance. So here's what happened. We got ordinance 49.0, 49.1, 49.2. 49.0, when that was drafted, it had language in there for the size of the blast. When 49.1 came out, that was gone, along with a whole bunch of other wording. So I took this wording out of the most recent one that had any measurements in it at all. Here's what it said. It says, detonation fuse lines must be covered with earth to prevent air blast problems. No blasting operation shall cause the calculated particle velocity of the ground motion to exceed 0.4 inches per second in the vicinity of any residence other than one owned by the operator. Now, there was a little more language in that past section that I left out, but this is the part that we're doing. The only other change were some property identification numbers, and Taddy took care of that. That's all I got.
Where's the language on the hours change that changed in this version versus what I saw?
Oh, when Patty presented your application,
Number 5.
That's a change, I believe, because I thought the one I read said it referred to a paragraph in our,
in your submittal.
yes.
Yeah, that really wouldn't work, because your submittal, that Patty, what he's talking about is their 2023 mining submittal, like, is that what you call it? Yeah. And that had a list of hours of operations and stuff. Well, actually,
That's in
I
here.
got them somewhere.
There.
Number one, they didn't match ours in our zoning ordinance. They didn't match the counties in their zoning ordinance. So none of them numbers matched, none of them times matched. So in order, it's pretty hard for us to issue a permit that doesn't match the counties, and hard for us to issue a permit that doesn't match our own. We'd have to change our zoning ordinance to match what we issued and ask the county to change theirs to match what we issued. I ain't about to do that.
Does the county hours trump your hours? Or
Yeah, whichever's most restrictive. Okay, and these hours of operations, that's what we've been living by since I've been around here, and there hasn't been a problem with it. And then Patty was also asking about, well, I actually brought it up because I didn't realize it is, every once in a while you guys ask for permission for different hours or Saturdays or what have you to truck in that. And it's actually in the zoning ordinance in ours where we have the right to grant them hours. If that right wasn't in there, we wouldn't be able to do that. We'd have to live strictly by the hours.
Dick, I just always remind you when you add work to the clerk.
Yeah.
So you're adding, now she's gonna receive a blasting report every week, all summer? Is that-
No, every 14 calendar days.
But
they have-
they blast every week though,
Yeah.
so it'll end up being every week.
No, they got 14 calendar days from the blast.
They blast every week. Are you saying they should take a seismograph every?
They do.
And
The
that means every 14 days they're gonna be sending, which is every week.
Well, some weeks they don't blast. Sometimes they blast 2 times a week. Sometimes
Why
they blast
can't it
3
be a
times.
once a month or something, less often?
It's easier for,
Then you're gonna have Pam running around sending these out, and there's gonna be questions. I'm just telling you again, you keep adding work to the clerk.
All right,
I don't think, wait a minute, I don't think this adds any work to the clerk.
Okay.
Because, okay, number one, they already have somebody hired to do this. Their blasting company, I thought it was the blasting company that did the recording, but Patty said, no, we have, different company does the blasting and does the recording. So the recording's already being done, they're already paying for it. The recording company has the data. It's a simple email of that data to the clerk.
It's not quite that simple.
Not quite that simple?
You're asking for a formalized report from a third party, so they have to take my data with all their other customers' data and assemble it in a special customized report for just me, so I can report to you. I'm with Scott here on it.
Well, you wouldn't even report to us under this, they would.
But they have to do it.
They're doing it anyway, aren't they?
They're not creating a formalized report for you. They're keeping data in a table for me.
Okay.
So I'm requesting something like twice, once in the middle of the season and once at the end of the season, and you'll have everything you have. I mean, that limits everybody's administrative burden, and you're getting the data you want if you can see it.
See, here's the problem we have right now. If somebody comes up to me and says, how much can they blast and how big was the blast? I can't tell them how big the blast was. I can't tell them how much they can blast. I got no information, which ain't right.
I think a lot what we're looking for too is just, I mean, the pit's expanding, we're growing. We as a township need to understand, you know, when we're getting complaints, how big numbers were. When we look at trying to push boundaries or do different things, we need to understand the sizes, what it's doing, and how it's reacting to the township. So I think it's important for the township to get the transparency and get the knowledge out of it to be able to work. We're trying to bring in SHC, and we're just trying to understand the whole process and make sure people are, you know, accountable with it. And when we get a complaint from a resident, we want to know and be able to match it up. And the more often we do that, I think, I mean, yeah, it's a little more work, but if we get a complaint, we want it taken care of immediately, not 30 days later, someone calling saying whatever. We'd like to just have the knowledge, but I don't know what that process looks like exactly. But
So are we ready to make a motion on,
I got a couple other things I wanted to add.
yep,
So that south section there, you know, one of the things over all the years that we've always just kind of had is we just take down trees and dig holes and whatever. You know, we talked about in the variances, the uniqueness of the island and all that stuff. There's gonna be a lot of, you know, habitat type stuff that's gonna leave. And I guess I'd be curious, you know, like I know right outside the town hall here, we have some open green space. And I know across the road from Eggert's entrance, we have some green space. You know, what would it look like to try and get some trees and stuff planted back in there to, you know, restore basically what we're gonna be losing? I wouldn't mind something, you know, nothing real expensive or extravagant, but I'd be curious if we could start trying to, you know, put back in places what we're taking out. Something like that. I don't know if that's a possibility to add into the permit instead of just losing another 20 acres of woods. If either of you have a thought on that, or anyone?
Sounds like a good idea to me.
would that be possible to do?
Where are we worried about losing 20 acres of trees in the current?
Go show.
Well, just along your drive entrance there, you know, and past ones, but we're just gonna be clearing out that other spots. And we have open grassland that really doesn't get mowed or
Take a map
anything
over
anyway.
it all.
You know,
Show.
it's- that's south potential, this stuff down here. There's just that little bit of green space out in front of the town hall here, and then I don't know about that other green space out by your entrance, but instead of open trees that don't provide anything for, you know, what we're losing, that helps keep the uniqueness of Gray Cloud. That's kind of, something I'd like to see, but.
No, from my understanding, those types of things you can add into that administrative permit. You want that, and everyone agrees to it, you would just add that as a condition under, number 7, other administrative conditions. I think as long as it's not something, you know, grass can go to stadium or.
So would they
Trees.
plant these trees, where would they plant these trees?
I just know there's, just that green space where that court used to be over here. And then, you know, I don't know what the front of the entrance looks like, but they got all that open open land that's there in front of their entrance, but,
That's a pollinator garden.
so even just, I mean, yeah, that's,
Say that again?
That's being treated as a pollinator garden.
I was thinking across from that,
Oh,
that,
Isn't that the solar garden?
no, across the south side of your entrance there,
Where they got their
That-
sign going in, you mean, their entrance sign?
behind the sign, yeah, there's that little field. I mean, you guys don't hay it or do anything with it?
yes.
Doesn't Holcim's Environmental have their own rules or whatever laws that they go by to give back to the environment? Most big companies do. That they have rules that they go by, for so many that they take down, they have to put so many in.
A lot of that comes with why they're restoring all that buckthorn removal and doing a lot of that other work around the, so it's not necessarily getting stuff back, but they're doing a bunch of other work on their properties to get rid of invasive species and that kind of stuff.
Oh, so it's not like a tree for tree or.
Right. I don't think they have anything like that. I mean, how would you replace, I don't know how many acres that whole pit ends up being, but yeah, we've lost a lot of stuff over the years.
Why don't you just make it simple and say, you know, X amount of trees at your discretion. You plant however many trees, wherever the heck you want them, and then you can decide later where you want them to replace, you know, to get the effect you want.
Is it reasonable to do something small like that, Tom, or not? I mean, we're not asking for 20 acres of woods back, but just get some oak, small, young oak trees, whatever, just handful spread out so it starts filling in.
We're doing a lot of work that we've never been asked to do because we care about the environment, all that invasive species, returning all that waterfront property to, we're taking out basically garbage trees and making it like the prairie savanna that it's supposed to be or naturally would be. Are you guys aware of the amount of work we're doing there and the annual dollars we're spending on that?
Not the dollars, but I know the work you're doing.
So that was before anyone said anything, we were doing that work for the reasons you're describing here. So I'm not sure if everybody in the room is aware of what we do there and all the areas we're working on.
I know my property, they cut down every single cedar tree. They girded them all, every one of them. Nice big cedars, you can go up and look on the bluff, they're all dead.
Yeah, I don't know how that program works, but I mean, I understand it's invasive stuff, but as a wildlife person and to me, that whole process destroys the habitat, but it's not invasive, but I don't know, that's kind of stuff on your property, and I guess when I look at every one of these red areas at one point was all standing oaks, savannas, and home to a lot of stuff, and I don't think it's very unreasonable to, you know, just, there's small areas that are left. We're not asking for a bunch of trees or anything, but I think we should look at trying to fill some stuff in to just replace what we take down, what we take from it.
You know, the problem with this whole issue is, if you read the county's mining ordinance, before you can stick a shovel in the ground, you gotta have a reclamation plan that covers all these kinds of things.
We have that.
Our reclamation plan is almost non-existent.
I just made you a new one and you guys complimented.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I mean the one before you start mining. Oh, that reclamation plan. No, I mean before they start mining, you're supposed to have all this stuff ironed out.
Yeah,
What's gonna be when you're done?
We have that.
To me, this would fall into one of those
Well-
mitigation areas where sometimes you make them add a berm, sometimes you make different stuff go on for the area. And yes, it's new because nobody has ever asked for anything from Gray Cloud in all the years, but that's why you have a lot of people sitting here wondering what we've ever gotten out of losing all the trees. But every other city you go to, and that's just a pretty generic rule. You take trees down, you should be planting them back. And if we have room to plant them back, I think we should be planting them back.
That's in the reclamation plan.
Well, that's in how many years for the down in the bottom of the pit, which is still up in the air on, you know, approval and stuff.
That's that concept reclamation plan?
Right. So we just kick all our habitat gone, everything, and then just rebuild it in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, whenever the pit leaves. And that's, I mean, why not? We have right now, they're gonna come in with a dozer in the spring, we cut them loose, they're gonna lose all those trees. Why not have some planted back now ahead of that, or with it?
Would that be possible?
Anything's possible.
Okay.
This is brand new, it's a brand new concept. It wasn't on any of the things I've seen before I showed up here an hour ago. I've got no notice, I've got no plans, no time to.
So,
What are you proposing? I mean,
Well, that's what we had SHC, so we all literally just got this, we got this new one, this was a judgment, we just got that tonight, and the one from the planning commission, we got that last night. So we all printed these hot off the press, went through, tried to make our own, I mean, we might just have to put it off for a month and try and, propose some things, I guess I was just looking for open discussion.
we can't put this Holcim mining permit.
If we put it off, it's
Can't put it off.
approved.
You can't put it off, it'll exceed the 120-day total, and then the default is approved as submitted.
Yeah, we got it,
It doesn't, however, mean that you have to take action on it tonight. You can extend it for a few days if you need to, but the 120-day clock is ticking, and I forget the exact date, but it doesn't cover you to the next meeting.
but they need this permit
This
tonight.
No, they need the permit approved within the timeline that you have to approve it, which is 120 from submittal, which basically means the end of this month.
They gotta start their operations now.
Yeah, I can't comment on that, Chair. All I'm saying is that from an administrative perspective, you have to take action on the permit, or the permit as submitted is approved, is implied as approved. And if you don't need to take action on it tonight, if there's additional deliberation, because you're right, Tom, you hadn't seen it, we didn't see it either, this is new. This is why the town board can actually take action on the language at the time that they're making the approval, or additional suggestions to it. If you need additional time, then you're gonna have to decide how you extend your meeting until the end of the month, so you can take that detail into the recommendation itself.
Can we just write in a line item on here to plant? I mean, we're adding all this stuff they never saw, so can we just add on here with our approval of the thing that will plant a reasonable amount of trees next to the town hall in the green space? Or am I off on the trees? You guys don't want trees?
Yeah, no, you're right on with
I mean,
the
do people,
trees.
I don't know, do residents, anything, get comments? I don't know.
You just have to make it enforceable. I don't think you can say a reasonable amount of trees, because what's reasonable to them might not be reasonable to another.
Well, I don't
Well, they've
think,
been really good with
They've
us.
worked in really good
with,
faith, but yeah.
Solar Garden,
I'm just saying, trying to define it before I put it in there.
yeah.
I've mentioned before, they did core drilling next to Ted in my property, and they cut big, probably a 30-foot, 30-foot roads back there to remove all the big trees, and that was subject to the variance requests that were subsequently voted down by this board, and that's all filling in with buckthorn, and there's no remediation. So that would be the primary where I would see an opportunity for them to restore some of the big trees in an area that's probably not gonna be mined in the future.
Would you be willing to do that?
I think he needs more direction. Do what?
Do the buckthorn in that area?
we're already doing buckthorn in certain areas, so,
Probably just a matter of time till you get there, right?
I don't know how big the area is and what we're doing. We're working our ways throughout the entire property. You want trees out here?
No,
just one, I guess
not
nobody
here,
else does.
down farther.
I do, that's where I'd want them, right there, just filling in that.
Right, oh, here?
Just start somewhere, yeah, the
Tennis court?
the tennis court, and then if that grassy area right across the street,
Across the street.
unless we don't, south of the entrance, that little U.
South of the entrance or north of the entrance?
South. The north side's at Pollen Field or whatever.
The south side, there ain't much down there. They haven't touched that. Ain't that just pretty much grassy?
Right.
What about by me and Jeff?
Yeah, that's where I'm talking about.
I mean, I know there's, consideration of a berm, in the future that would, so I wouldn't want to plant somewhere that then they're gonna bulldoze and turn into a berm later, but if it's been established that a 500-foot from property line is kind of the end of the road, if we said, okay, if a berm is 100 feet, toe to toe, within 400 feet of Ted's south property line, they would restore and cut buckthorn, plant new oaks and cedars,
Well-
native species there.
Well, seeing they're not doing anything outside the mine print on that north end this year is what we're approving is this year.
Yeah.
I'm not overly concerned about putting stipulations on them for what will happen in 2025. I would sooner do that for the 2025 permit, well, if that makes sense. Like you say, who knows what's gonna happen in 2025? I don't want them spending their money and time up there.
Yeah.
Not that I'm overly concerned, but I mean, you gotta be somewhat reasonable to them. On the south end here, if somebody wants a few, if they want 60 pine trees over there that are 2 feet tall, that's probably not a big deal.
Go show him what you need on your phone.
You wanna come up here, Tom? We just do something right in here, and this is your pollen thing, and then just fill in a little bit right in here. And not even, we don't, just, cause we're taking out, these trees. I was just saying if we planted it. Cause I don't think you'd have any mining there future, right? It wouldn't be something you'd have to tear down later, right?
So, in this market, can we start small? This is a 1-year permit. Let me plant a half dozen trees down there. We'll work through the applications with it. We can talk about it again next year.
Yeah, there's never time to discuss this stuff, so we hired SHC, it burned up our 60 days, and we're all just learning, but.
No, wait. What was that characterization?
Well, no, we didn't know what to do, so after getting the permit now, and I sit back and digest it, I think it's the right thing to do, but it's a learning process.
So,
I think Tom will work with us on that in good faith.
we're gonna do trees down there is what we do them. But I'm not keen on hammering up trees right this moment because operating hours are a much bigger concern of mine as to what we have here than that. And that pushes to a later date. But we've had operating hours that we've submitted written in our permit for multiple iterations that were approved. And they're the hours we've ran here for many, many years with no issues. If you refer me to the ordinance, you're making a major change in our operating hours, from what I understand. I'm not prepared to make this argument because I don't have the ordinance with me, but there's a big discrepancy from what you historically approved to what you're trying to limit me to tonight, correct?
Not really, no. Actually, your 2022 administrative permit just referred you to the ordinance.
And this 21 as well. This UP.
Did the 2021 do the same thing?
They do the same.
So really, it's no change from what you had.
Then what was that language in our previous submittal for?
I don't know, she wouldn't even have had to put it in there.
Well, it was in the administrative permit.
No, the administrative permit just referred to our zoning ordinance rules.
Okay, not the administrative permit, I'm getting my words jumbled, our submittal to the administrative permit.
Yeah, that had all them hours in it, yeah. But the actual administrative permit didn't have them in there.
Are those hours that were in our submittal significantly different than what is in the ordinance?
Okay, they're labeled differently in there. They're not exactly the same. But I did find some here. Now, I'd have to dig and find the counties, because the counties are different yet. Okay. Like mining extraction, you guys got 6 AM to 10 PM. The ordinance says 7 to 7. Main plant, you guys got 6 to 10 PM, 6 AM, 10 PM. We got 7 AM to 7 PM. Now I think some of these things are a little weird. Wash plant, you guys got 4 AM to 12 AM. We got 7 AM, the ordinance says 7 AM to 7 PM.
What is that what do you do at the wash plant that you have 4 AM?
Barge loading,
Thanks.
you guys got 5 AM to 10 PM. Our ordinance says 12:01 AM to 12:01 PM, or 24 hours a day. And the trucking, the difference between there is we say no holidays.
And any discrepancies on those, they could refer to our ordinance on asking for permission for that or granting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The asking permission for hours is for solely for trucking or for any operation?
All of them that were there.
Seven AM is, what did we have for trucking on there, Dick? You got
That stayed the same. It's, you want me to take you want what you had or what,
I want what our language was, but you're 7 to 7 across the board, right? Except barge.
No.
It's 24/7.
yeah, barge on 24/7. Bear with me a minute here. What'd you want, trucking? I think that's on the next page. Trucking, loading for trucks for delivery may be conducted between 7:30 AM and 4 PM, Monday through Friday. Hauling by truck may be conducted between hours
Okay,
of,
that's hauling. What's,
the trucking is actually 8 to 4:30, Monday through Friday. And no holidays.
wash plant is what?
Wash plant, 7 AM to 7 PM,
What did we have?
4 AM to 12 AM.
And if that's what we're operating, I mean,
It's
you,
not,
you can
nobody-
ask us to do it, and if we're not getting complaints, we're gonna, not,
Let me
people
find
aren't
an
hearing
ordinance
it's no
for you.
different. You have people there at 4 in the morning?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
well, I don't wanna. Does anybody have a problem with washing at 4 AM? You-
It's loud. And the closer that they get out
plant
this
doesn't-
way,
the plant
they're gonna have to run that belt.
No, that'd be mining and all that, that'd be the trucks and stuff, yeah, no, none of that's
No,
running.
the washing,
That would go to the washing though.
yeah.
Here's the actual ordinance, Tom. You wanna see it? On up here. Let me see if it starts back here. Okay, hours of operation there. Here, you start reading there.
I don't have my plant manager here,
Oh.
I can't on the fly figure out if this is a bigger deal than I thought or not a big deal. I don't know.
I don't think it is, to be honest with you. We've never had, let's put it this way, we've never had a problem with it.
I've never heard of a complaint for noise, right?
Just heard it right
Well,
there.
Which is why,
I've never gotten anything
Here's-
from a clerk on
here's
early
20
noise, other than blasting or something during the day.
2021 administrative permit says hours of operation shall be established by Washington County 5-year conditional use permit.
in that permit, I would almost guarantee we
but nothing as early as 4. And 6 is not pleasant to do by them, I'm sure. No, I wouldn't want that.
There's a 2022.
22 refers to the ordinance.
Yeah, 2022 refers to the ordinance.
Straight up.
Yeah, hours of operation are established in Township Ordinance 49 VA 3. That was 2022. The only thing I remember coming up and them asking one time is, it was in the fall and we weren't on the board, but they said, well, we want to start running our belts and getting things warmed up before whatever they were allowed to do. And the board said, go ahead, you ain't really running a plant, because, you know, they got to run their belts to get them moving and stuff like that for a period of time before you throw product on them. And nobody had a problem with it because you ain't making any noise. So,
Well,
I don't know, I've never heard any complaints about hours of operation. The complaints we get or I hear are shaking the house. One minute.
Okay, you know, I used to work there. One time I did complain when I worked there. I got cornered in the hallway by the manager of the whole operation in Amper Midwest, asking why I did that. So, you know,
It's all hearsay on
The
there.
manager's not with us, I don't even know.
Stan Mergen?
He doesn't work for us, can't confirm it, no idea if that's true.
why would I make something like that?
Yeah, I just have a comment on the recording, the last recording. I think that's great that you guys put that in the permit, the requirement. That's the number one complaint people have is the blasting, the intensity of the blasting, how it shakes their houses, how they're afraid that the blasting damaging their property. But my fear is that we're gonna get the blasting data and we're gonna get one data point. And we're not gonna have the context of previous blasts that are surely recorded and stored on some spreadsheet by the same third party that's gonna be giving us this information. So what I think we should do is, the request should be to, disclose this blasting data, but also to get all available blasting data. That way we have some context as to how big these blasts are. Otherwise, we're gonna have a blast, and we're gonna say, geez, that felt like a big blast, or that didn't feel too bad. That was a 7. And what does a 7 mean? Well, I don't know, we only have one month blast. In 10 years, I'll tell you what that means. So, it's not meant, and I don't mean it as it's not supposed to be, punitive to them. It's just transparency, and it helps the community understand what this data means. And I've thought about it, and I try to think about it from their side and obviously our side, and I can't think of a good argument why we can't just make as much of that data available as possible.
I'll remind the board that I held blasting meetings, invited a good portion of the people in this room to those meetings, and shared data from the year that we were asked.
He's correct in that statement. I'll back him up on that.
I will be willing to provide last year's data, and now it appears we're rolling towards the 14-day reporting requirement. So you will have all of last year, and you will be getting blasts every 14 days.
What we want is not for them to provide anything. We don't want to get any information from them. We want all available information from the people that are collecting the data.
The report for last year will come from the third party. So you'll have all of last year, and you'll have every 14 days this year. That's substantially more than we've ever had, and we're definitely
Yeah.
moving in the right direction.
I hope you understand where I'm coming from, Tom. Like I say, we said it before, resident comes up to me complaining about blasting, and I start looking and number one, their question was, well, how big a blast can they make? After I looked today, there's no regulations, there's no nothing. that I can find anyway. Okay, maybe there's something in some mining stuff, some that,
Not said.
you know,
I'll give you last
Okay.
year from a third party.
okay.
Or 14 days. when we-
But I'll say again, why not get all available data? All available data.
Well, my concern is, somebody comes up and they said, May 5th this year, they shook the heck out of my house. Okay, within 14 days, we should have them numbers from somebody. And what we do with them is, God only knows, but at least we have something if a homeowner or somebody has a problem. Here's the information. We don't totally know how to read it, but maybe you got somebody that does. Have at it, or whatever you want to do, versus having nothing. Because basically, I think everybody around here knows how much their house has been shaken for the last, at least me, 30-some years down here. And it's been shaken about the same for the last 30-some years. So if I get one that, I think the data from 10 years, 15 years ago, 25 years ago is probably going to be about the same. I don't like putting undue burdens on businesses if I don't have to.
But they would remove them from this. This is on a spreadsheet. It's just or you're sending a file. And they don't have to we don't want the information from them. We want it from the third party.
That's where it would come from.
They'd have to pay for it though, so it is a burden for them.
They're already getting it.
Do we know that it's gonna cost extra? This is on a spreadsheet. It might cost extra to break the data.
Well, let's see what Tom says. Do you have that somewhere?
I've offered to give you all of last year, neat, tidy package from a third party, and we'll roll forward with 14. Can we start there? It's significant improvement from where you're at now.
That works.
Technology from 10 years ago and where we were and what we're doing is not even apples to apples to what we're doing now anyway.
I can live with that.
The argument that we've heard in the past, though, is that we're gonna misunderstand this data. We're not gonna understand it. And it's gonna be a lot easier to not understand it, the less information we have. If we have, maybe there's 15 years worth of data out there, and we get a reading of a 7, and that's gonna make a lot more sense in the context of more data. The less data we have, the more confused we're gonna be.
Well, if he gives us all the data from 2022, which he's offering to do, and from here, that gives us a year's worth of blasts. What, about 45 blasts, something like that last year?
35, something like that.
Yeah, 35, 40 blasts, whatever they had. We have that. Now you got something to compare this year to. Do you have something from 10 years ago, 15? No.
Can I interrupt you,
Sure.
Dick? Pam, you had a question.
Actually, I wanted to know who's going to be reading this. If the clerk gets a complaint, and they want information, I'm not gonna be able to take this information and go, oh yeah, I know exactly what happened here, and shove it off to them. It's gonna be whatever I get in a spreadsheet goes from them to the complainant, and they can figure it out.
Yeah. Yep, exactly.
It's not gonna mean jack.
It could to somebody else.
Why wouldn't it go to you three?
Well, we don't know how to read it either, so, but what I think would be beneficial is not necessarily for the ability to just pass it out to people, would be to just have, and when we get more data, or we're looking at, moving closer somewhere or doing something, we as a township could incorporate that just like we did with SHC. We could have somebody reach out and say, where does this lie? People are thinking, we got something to look at, guidelines to learn from. It doesn't have to be every 14 days.
With the time we spent with Tom and his team, I know how to read those.
Right. But then we just have it on paper if we need. I don't think no one's gonna sit and read it every 14 days, or I'd hope residents aren't. Your house is gonna shake. You guys have all lived here a long time. It's not.
At least there's a record that,
Right.
you can say, okay, here's.
That's what we're after, is a record. Does 30 days work better for you? I pulled 14, like 2 weeks out of the air.
I think it should be once a month.
Yeah, every 30 days. Yeah, monthly.
Yeah, that's what Scott was talking about.
So it changed the 14 calendar days to 30?
Yeah, and that's, yes,
That's what?
yep.
monthly reports within 14 days of the end of the month. That way, it's within 14 days, you get however many blasts in a month. It's still timely, you can go back to the data, and it's administratively that.
Yeah, it makes a lot less work for Pam.
Does that make sense?
Say that again?
Monthly reports within 14 days of the end of the month. If there's 3 blasts in that month, great. If there's 6, great. But you've got a timely report, is within a month of it happening, month plus 2 weeks. And so you can satisfy that somebody asked, and it's not the administrative burden of every time you blast, within 14 days there's a report coming.
Let's, instead of putting all that verbiage in there, let's just change the 30 to 45 days. You got 30 days in a month and give them 15 more days and make it 45.
But Dick, what you're forgetting is that.
You want the month's
that would be
data.
within 45 days of every event. So event takes place 45, event takes place 45. What I'm trying to suggest is that within a month, whatever events take place, get reported within 2 weeks of that month end. And
Perfect.
we got each month, what blasts, what intensity, what freeze.
So it's
So
due
you're
on
gonna
14.
get,
Yep.
June's report is due July 15th.
What's that?
is that fair? I can
Yep.
work with the clerk on that language.
By the 15th of a month of all the blasts in the previous month.
Yep.
That's a whole lot simpler.
Well, how often do they report to the court? Can't they just copy us on that? They report to us at the same time?
It's the administrative burden of every.
We don't want, yeah,
It's trying to come up with monthly reports that we're not messing them up. Is that one settled then?
Yeah, it's,
So what are you putting in there? On the 15th of the month, following the month of the blast?
I think we get the point, that the mine will be providing monthly blast, reports within 14 days of the month and to the clerk.
Got it.
Okay.
You didn't sound too happy with that, okay?
Well,
simplifies it a
I
lot.
didn't see the need for all the BS in there, but that's okay.
Do we need the request for 2022 data in the permit documented?
Yep.
Yeah, that's, Pam will do that.
Dan,
2023
with this
permit.
previous data, can we just come to an agreement that we can at least preserve the data? I mean, we don't know what's gonna happen now if they go back and delete all that data. Can we at least?
I don't think,
They're not-
it's all kind of
they're
done
not
anyway.
gonna delete it.
Third parties don't just do that kind of stuff.
No.
If we get last year's data, it gives you a little bit of structure for this year, and to me, the goal would be to, if somebody calls and says this date was bad, at least we'd have something to look at
Now, like,
close.
what I mean, we only got 3 readings last year.
That's fine, we're gonna start getting everything, so if all of a sudden we start getting these blasts and we don't get readings from it, then we can question it. We can move forward here.
You didn't get readings because the blast energies were so low, it didn't trip the.
Well, that's not what the glass company said. The glass company said there wasn't a reading.
I think this is a
You all said
reasonable
they didn't take a
permit.
reading, and then you said, no, it was 0, and the glass guy said, well, it didn't take a reading. You guys had a little argument in the room about whether the sensor recorded something, or that the reading was a 0.
The meters are calibrated by a third-party company. The limits are set to a threshold. If the threshold is not met, the meter will not go off. And the reason for that is if somebody drives by in a Harley, that meter will go off on the sound. It happens. I'm getting false positives now where it goes off on a day we haven't blasted.
That's not what he said. There was some confusion, I think.
Well,
Can I make a motion? Should we make a motion?
yes, please.
All right,
Well,
okay.
You are putting a limit on my blasting.
Correct.
Do you know what it means to cover fuse lines with earth to prevent air problems?
No, that I had no clue. I took it out of the past permit.
So how do we know that's a good idea?
I don't, but it was taken,
Do you know what 0.4 inches per second is as a limit?
nope,
Do you know how that works with the frequency level?
no,
Because frequency and intensity map go together.
yeah.
We don't know where that number came from.
We know where it came from. It came out of our
So-
ordinance 49 before all the guts
Where
were
did that
stripped
come
out
from?
of it. That I don't know.
This is dangerous. This is not a number picked with logic. It's not a number picked by an expert. It's something we grasped out of an old ordinance. I'm not comfortable with it.
Well, we're not comfortable with nothing.
Right now, we're meeting the state's requirement or the blasting requirement by the federal government.
Where, yeah, you get, that's what we were trying to figure out. Where do you, which statute? Because we didn't find anything with the Washington County or ours.
It's not in the county, it's not in the state, it's with the feds. I can get you that information, but this is, you're throwing a dart. That's not, this is
Yeah.
not an educated decision,
I agree with that.
respectfully.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think we need an educated decision.
Okay, so we're not gonna get that tonight, so what do you wanna do?
We gotta pass this motion for the Holcim mining permit for Larson Quarry.
Well, I'm not happy passing with nothing that quotes the limits.
Well,
We're obligated by law to meet the requirement. I described that one, you remember that from the blasting?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I don't remember that part, but yeah.
So there is a limit, we can't do whatever we want.
You just refer to the federal statute.
he's
Can
gonna,
you provide the number for us?
he's gonna get it for us.
Just refer to that.
Okay, Dan, you wanted to make the motion? Oh,
Am I in H, am I just saying we're gonna refer to the federal guidelines for the detonation fuse lines? Or are we striking it? Is it okay?
no, he's gonna send it to us.
Okay, so
So what are we making them, yeah, we need to see that and add it in for the motion. So under H, yeah, are you comfortable with that, Dick?
It's in their permit, so we need to decide what we need there instead. Just looking for wording.
This piece?
Yeah,
Here's what I'd say then, I guess, is that I think we should just approve it with the federal mining blasting guidelines being met under H, and then that can be homework for us this year to just figure out those numbers and learn more on that for
Yeah,
next year.
we'll figure it out.
what if we put in any state or federal blasting guidelines,
They're federal.
Applicant
put them both in there.
agrees to comply with all federal
And,
blasting requirements
concerning two residential properties.
relevant to the mining operation.
Trying to-
We're just
Trying to cover my butt a little bit here. If there's state ones, I want them. If there's federal ones, I want them. And I want, if they affect residential properties, I want that in there.
Of course, federal laws apply, you just can't murder people down there, you can't have a nuclear reactor down there.
We're just saying whatever's stricter.
Yeah.
If they both have them, whichever's, that's what,
How about this? Blasting, let's see, what do you call it?
charges.
Yeah, give me the right word. What I want to put is, blasting operations shall conform to all state and federal guidelines which,
That's it.
That apply.
that apply to residential properties. Because it could be different for residential than if you're in mining properties.
Okay, I gotta get out of here, so let's do this motion. Dan is gonna do it. You ready?
yeah.
So what do you got for that wording?
Applicant agrees to comply to the state and federal guidelines that apply, okay.
Here, yeah, all blasting operations,
Residential properties.
yeah. All blasting operations shall comply with state and federal guidelines in regard to residential properties.
Okay.
That work, Tom? And then the 15 days, or 14 days after each month for the 30 days, that works? Okay. So I make a motion to approve the 2023 administrative permit with the blasting changes to every 30 days received within 14 days, and then the other federal guidelines.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Well, that was simple.
Yeah, oh, we got, animal control.
Just kick that down the can to next month,
Huh?
unless you got something?
Well, yeah, let's kick it down a month.
Well, do we have much to do? We don't have much to do on the animal thing, do we? I mean, what do we gotta do? I think people kinda want that taken care of.
Pam?
I thought you just wanted to speak about it.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was.
Yeah.
Oh,
Let's kick it down the road for,
We're not coming up with nothing new, it's just
Was that
yakking
'cause
about
of
what's
the-
happening.
Cause the emails we've been getting, but we've done
Yeah.
our due diligence.
Yeah.
So Pam's looking for what we should do to mitigate that.
well, you asked me to put it on there,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah, and you got all that from Anne Marie, all those.
Well, we've seen everything come from Pam, but when we get emails like that, I guess I just look at it, the police have been out there, did their thing, we called animal control, they did their, we've hired the authorities to do the work. And
But it's
they're
the
not
wrong-
happy with, if they're not happy or they wanna say something different, that's not really a township issue. I'm not gonna, in my opinion, I'm not gonna go say, animal control was wrong, the police were wrong, we agree with you as a resident. I'm not in a position to make that decision. So if they wanna say it's the wrong dog, or somebody wants to do that kind of stuff, they should take that up with St. Paul Park Police and Animal Control on their own dime, on their own time.
Well, it's the sheriff.
Well, it's really not a sheriff issue, because the sheriff didn't issue the officer that responded to the scene was St. Paul Park. Because the emails are back from the dog bite saying that they're still a dangerous dog. But when animal control went out and did a full investigation, they cleared all 3 of his dogs, whether we like it or not. They cleared all 3 of his dogs, and the 1 dog left that was on the thing. So now there's hearsay of it may or may not be the right or wrong dog.
Well, I
So
don't think that's
I
hearsay.
I listen to animal control and I listen to the police.
I
If you
know,
wanna listen to somebody
but-
else, then
Animal control though came in long after the whole situation happened, and, the person that got attacked received a settlement, so they wouldn't give a settlement if dog didn't do something, and, yeah, he still has that dog, and we all have to deal with those dogs running around.
yeah, 'cause he leaves his gate open.
Yeah, the gate's open every single day, so it's like, it's not a done deal. Who knows? I don't know what to do, but the dogs are out all the time, and the one that attacked is still there.
I thought he was gone, or he or she.
No, it's the wrong dog.
the dog that is gone is the one that was on the police report from the police investigation. And I'm not an animal control person, but we as a township approved to hire animal control to take care of that work. I, as a town board member, am not gonna go tell somebody their dog's dangerous, or I'm not gonna make a decision on that. I put a vote down to approve animal control to go investigate the situation and do the stuff. And I understand the lady got a settlement off to the side. If there's something else, then, I mean, how many emails can we get as a township when I don't have authority to go just tell him his dog's dangerous?
But if you live there, would you want these dogs running around your kids? No.
I've been to his house a million times because everybody there, and my kids have been around all his dogs, but that doesn't matter. If somebody else has a different feeling of it, I respect everybody's opinion on it, and everybody should feel comfortable. But as a town board member, I think all I can do is have animal control, and if you see the dogs out, it's not legal to have your dog outside the
Yeah, that's the other thing.
property.
Yeah, it's an ordinance not to have your dog
So-
out, and he continues to have his dog out, whether it's a dangerous dog or not.
We don't,
They're not supposed to be
we
running
don't,
around.
we don't do that. We don't just show up with a leash and take them in. So if you see them out, you would call the police or you would call animal control. That's how that would, and they would deal with that. And if we need to get,
3 years of this, and it.
so do we as a township need to get a different animal control person? Do we need to get different
She
policing? What do we need to
started.
get?
They
Yeah.
just started, I don't think they've had time, like, a lot of this is out of her control, she wasn't the one who said it was a dangerous dog, I don't know how.
This animal control lady went out, reviewed all the information, went to St. Paul Park Police, went through all the information with them, and she came up with her facts and findings. So as I'm asking for opinions on what we do to remedy it, because I don't wanna get emails, I don't wanna get 100 emails. If people, we've had animal issues forever. I went and sat with those neighbors to talk to them about cats, and they started just doing what they needed to do with the cats, cause they weren't his. So a lot of stuff that comes up, whether we like it or not, in my opinion, all we can do is hire animal control or the police. If the dog's out of the yard, call the police. That's your, if you see him out of the yard, that's your, you know, I don't know what else I can do as a board member. And I don't think the township should be spending resources or receiving hundreds of emails on the same things. If somebody's not liking it, they should go to St. Paul Park Police and say, I want to open this case back up, or why was this the wrong dog, or whatever it was. I'm not going to ever vote to say that it was the wrong dog when a police officer and animal control did it. I wasn't there, I didn't see it, I just used the law enforcement that's at our hired to do. But, I mean, we just sent animal control out without reasonable cause for horses, like, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on that is really not in our control or.
If you see
But-
it, can you get video, so you have proof that they're on?
Yeah, we have all that. The neighbor has gotten that and nothing happened. But the thing is, like, I got all paperwork at home, I don't have it with me, but he got a citation and said, if this happens again, there will be a repercussion. The dogs have been out hundreds of times after that, so I don't know. And that, the township attorney was involved with that one.
I mean, we don't write citations, so the police, somebody should follow up on that when they get called out again. I mean, what are we asking from the township? Because I don't like getting emails nonstop about, I mean, we need to understand what's going on, but I also know an animal issue is a call to the police or a call to the animal control,
Which we do,
and not really.
nothing happened, so I don't know.
So then, when I look at it, I mean, I'm just a person. When I look at it and the cops go out and they say nothing, you know, they didn't write a citation, they didn't take the dog, then I think it's an okay situation.
Well,
That's
the dog
just
is
how
back in
I,
the yard by the
how I
time
do.
the police get there because they're busy doing other things, so I don't.
I mean, we could go back and forth all day, but when a call is made, it's just like noise. If an officer goes out to house for noise, if that person doesn't get rid of a citation or anything, then it must have been a reasonable amount of noise. That's how I look at it. I mean, that's
It'll just
all
be
I
too
can
bad
do.
if something happens to one of the 6 kids that are outside next to his house. And I don't know how.
I don't know what you guys want to do. To me, I don't think it's appropriate place to, I mean, it's rude. So somebody on your street sent people to look at his horses. That was without a probable cause. We have a property owner that has dog. If you have an issue with the dog, call the police when it's out of the yard. Take video of the yard, like Lynn said. That should be enough evidence.
We do, and nothing gets done. So
None of us are going to go scoop the dog up.
It's not
And
you
if it's,
guys, I'm not saying it is.
well, we're getting the emails though, so we're all doing it. So what can we do so that we can
have
eliminate
ordinances, we have to do
hours?
Something different if it's not.
Did
You
you
guys
show the
talk?
animal control lady these videos?
Yeah, I'm sure that Pam did.
I don't have any videos. Videos? Videos?
Videos, a photo of him out in the street or the.
Well, I don't know why Pam should get involved. I think you should just call the animal control yourself. Isn't that what we do?
That's what I think should happen, yes.
You might get a faster response.
Yeah, with,
What is our protocol for something like that? Just any resident can call animal control?
No, it was to call the clerk and they called, so.
Well, if a dog's loose, then it would be a officer call is usually how that would
Yeah.
happen.
And then they call animal control?
It says if there's a loose dog, you call the police first, but that's if it's lost.
Yeah.
And then the clerk.
It's a dangerous dog, but it's not a dangerous dog, is what everyone's been told, so I don't know what to do.
I don't either. I'm not trying to be, I mean, I'm just saying, animal control we've hired, we pay money as taxpayers, and the police, we pay money as taxpayers, so.
I just go back to the question though, if I see a dog running loose, who do I call? Dan or Pam or the cops?
They'll come back.
The cops.
They will come over and they'll retrieve it.
Well, the cops,
Happened to me like 4 times.
yeah, the cops don't take it, animal control
No,
does.
they will
They
take
will take
it,
the dog. Oh, yeah.
Oh, they will?
but the problem, they never can get these dogs, so that's the
Okay.
problem.
Will the sheriff take those? I know St. Paul Park used to, but I don't know if the sheriffs will.
I don't know.
I don't
The cops
think
will take the dog. Absolutely.
Maybe. We got a new cop.
Right.
So there's a gray area in our animal.
Taking the dog through my property 4 times, it's the same dog. So,
The sheriff?
The new cops.
same owner.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have them anymore.
All I'm saying is that my experience is that if you can call the police with an animal on the loose and they'll be treated. That is my
Well, I guess if they didn't want you calling them, they'd tell you who to call.
They were happy.
Okay. You know, part of the problem is we're a little township, there ain't police around all the time, and, you know, we don't have the resources. They have, 10 people running around looking at dogs, that's life, that's the way it is.
Whatever Eduardo's doing on his street, you guys should do on your street, because they listen. Eduardo,
Yeah.
he gets, they work for him.
The only other thing I had is that Culo guy up in the corner with all the junk in his yard. There was a settlement agreement reached with him, between him and his attorney and Culo and our attorney. We got some money out of it, and he's got so much time to clean up more junk, and I don't remember all the details, but the township is working on that, so.
Motion to adjourn?
Yeah, did you have any other thing? Okay, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.